Covering Brexit is is fun. Sometimes it really is. And then you get situations like this because we've been saying for the longest time how international trade deals work and what was obviously going to happen. And especially with the Australian trade deal, with the fact that you have, Australian animal welfare and how animals are treated in Australia is far, far lower than um, than the standards we have in the UK. We have very high standards in the UK, mostly again because of our European membership. And it was us being part of the European Union that actually boosted up our animal rights for all sorts of farm animals here in the UK. And Britons are really, really proud of that fact that we have such a good quality of animal welfare rights here. But as we said, when we start doing these trade deals, you're going to encounter countries like Australia, where because of their lower standards, they can cut corners. They can do all types of stuff, which basically means they can not only outperform, but outproduce our own British farms. This is why so many British farmers are so worried that this Australian trade deal has pretty much put on them a sell by date of after these 15 years when these tariffs are basically start weaning off to nothing. It's really worrying. Not only that, but we've also had very worrying news that, well, Patrick Minford's much longed dream of basically reducing food tariffs to zero, which again will somehow help the cost of living crisis, which will again have disastrous effects on the farming and food industry here in the UK, and basically give away key elements of what you would be talking about or negotiating in a trade deal. Yep. But unfortunately, everything, once again, Michael Gove said and Boris Johnson said that they will not compromise on animal welfare standards. Well, guess what's in the new Australian trade deal? And as I always said, once this trade deal got signed and done, we would start to see and find out what else was in it. And looky, what have we found today? Well, before we go diving into that, please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page and a notification called Buy Me Coffee, where you can buy me coffee. And of course, the YouTube subscription link is open as well as the new YouTube thank you button. So, without very much, thank you for all those people who do support the channel that way. And of course, on with the story today. So, this comes from The Independent. The title of Cows Kept in Cruel Conditions to be Outlawed in the UK are now included in the Australian trade deal. So, meat from cows kept in harsh conditions banned in the UK will be imported under the new trade deal struck with Australia, despite the government promises to improve animal welfare after Brexit. Cattle that are transported for over 48 hours without eating or drinking in parts of Australia. And its High Commissioner has admitted that those animals are included in the deal hailed by Boris Johnson as a big prize from leaving the EU. The journeys are more than 3 times the limit of the 14 hours without stopping for food and water in this country. And a figure is expected to be cut to at least 10.5 hours under the post-Brexit changes. Campaigners have already accused the ministers of quietly slashing standards, even as the kept animal bill is met and meant to end excessively long journeys before animals are even slaughtered. The Compassion for World Farming called the move completely unacceptable, while the RSPCA has warned that it paves the way for further trade deals that will permit poorer animal welfare. And indeed it will, because if you offer one thing to one country, then you've got to start offering it to other countries as well. This isn't just well, only you can have it. Again, we talked about this before. This isn't how international trade deals work. If you offer things to one country, you also have to start offering it to other countries as well. And of course, Australia has raised its eyebrows by arguing that its Brahman cattle are more, quote, durable than the cows in the UK and are therefore able to cope with the 48-hour journeys without the break. George Brandis, the High Commissioner, told the MPs that the vast majority of its cows live in less remote areas, which journey times are much shorter. But Barry Gardner, a member of the Commons Environmental Committee, which investigated the deal, says that we no longer send children up chimneys in this country. Okay. It was never in the latter years very common, but we put into law in place to stop it. And in fact, that this does not happen very often does not mean that there should not be a law in place to stop it. And of course, the committee has questioned other animal welfare practices in Australia, including hot branding, the painful culling of sheep, the museling, and of course, the lack of CCTV in slaughterhouses to tap rule breakers. But of course, on the latter, Mr. Bernice has insisted, you will find that Australian farmers are very law abiding people. They do not need to be supervised by CCTV to obey the law. James West, the senior policy manager for the Compassion of World Farming, has warned British farmers would face competition from meat produced through inhumane farming standards, saying, we should not be undermining the improvements in UK standards by importing products from animals that have suffered even more elsewhere, he told The Independent. Dave Bowles of the RSPCA said, the UK promised to lead the world on animal welfare standards, but this is a telling future for future trade partners that poorer animal welfare is no impediment to a trade deal. With the UK government seeking to sign trade deals as quickly as possible, we're likely to now come under pressure to lower standards or even let in poorer quality meats. The campaigners pointed out the promise made by the unravelling of the kept animal bills to try and implement a manifesto commitment to end excessively long journeys for slaughtering and fattening. It claimed at the time, now we've left the EU, we have the opportunity to look at alternative measures to try and protect animal welfare during transport. Farmer leaders have already attacked the Australian trade deal for breaking its promises to protect them from cheaper imports for 15 years. Australian farmers are effectively being handled tariff-free access to the UK market from day one, with up to a cap of sales that is 60 times the current level of imported beef. The UK government spokesperson argued that the Trade and Agricultural Commission, a watchdog for the new trade deals, has found that imports of beef from cows have likely travel differences that are banned in the UK unlikely. We've always said that we'll not compromise the UK's high standards of environment, welfare, on food standards, the spokesperson said. But Mr. Bendis was quizzed in a 48-hour transposition by the Environmental Committee, conceding that its maximum is allowed by arguing the most journeys are of a few short hours. Very rarely in the far of North Australia is not far from Queensland and the North Territory, you may get distances high like that, the commissioner said. He added, the cattle there are Brahman cattle, which is a completely different breed from the type we have in the UK, and they are bred for conditions that are to be very durable beasts. Please do not let us use this 48-hour figure because it is extremely rare. It only applies to the kind of cattle durability and robustness that you do not have in the United Kingdom. It is misleading to think that that is an Australian standard. Again, this is really worrying because the more you see this happen, the more we are going to get pressured, not just things on like animal welfare, but other areas as well. And this, of course, always comes back to it. People of the UK have not actually had to experience these trade deals before and what this means in these types of sort of environments. And if they are willing to concede on areas like this, where else has the government conceded in other areas that we don't know about yet? This is again concedes to be really, really worrying. And of course, the problem is if we now, let's say, want to try and protect our farmers or anything like that, we then get problems that we signed a trade deal saying explicitly this. And of course, this is where problems come in. Australia could take us to the World Trade Organization court, and so there's all kinds of problems this could unfold because any future government that wants to try and help and protect farmers by trying to protect the UK farming industry or anything like that by laws or something like that, you would have to be acting in a very protectionist manner to try and help UK farmers. And indeed, farmers right now need protection more than ever. And they are increasingly worried about the trade bills that are being signed by the government, particularly the Australian, and of course the New Zealand one is very likely we will see others coming in the near future that will also affect UK farmers, not only just them, but manufacturing and all other areas of society. And then that's when people will really start to understand just what we had when we were in the EU and just how good we actually really had it. But of course, thank you very much as always for watching. Please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below there is a link to my Patreon page and a motivation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can, well, buy me coffee. And as always, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you all next time.